Hello, my name's Dustin Atwood. Most of you probably know that. I've been a mechanic for a long time, pretty much my entire adult life. And I really enjoy getting to share kind of my thoughts and time and what's going on in the world or what's going on, the crazy things I'm getting into. And the fact you guys are so active in the comment section, I'm greatly appreciative for. And kind of we're just going to talk a little bit about the last year and a half, getting close to 2 years here on YouTube. And, you know, Mr. C out there, you are always awesome to hear from, and I get to see you in the shop every once in a while. And you brought up something in a recent comment that we were real close to, I think, like 3,200 subscribers. And I never really honestly thought we would get that far. Not that that's a big channel by any means, but as I initially thought about doing YouTube for years and years and years, I just procrastinated because A, I didn't know what I was doing, B, I didn't have maybe the camera equipment or the audio equipment, and I'm still working on that. I'm still learning it, and honestly I think it's evolving all the time. And so, as you know, it took us a little over a year to get to 1,000. I think we did a video on that, and then, you know, I expected it to take about the same amount of time to get to 2,000, and I didn't do a video on 2,000 because it just seemed like it was here and gone. And I had planned on doing one on 3,000 because that's kind of a big deal, and that's a lot of you folks out there choosing to subscribe and tune into the channel and see what kind of craziness I'm getting into. And as you can see here in the background of this one, we got some more craziness that we're getting into, but I'll talk about that here in a little bit. You know, I've had some great opportunities in the automotive world in the last 25 years. And some of them just kind of fell in my lap, and then some of them the door opened, and thankfully I had the ability to walk through that door. And maybe some of you know, but probably most of you don't know, that A1 Custom Car Care had a radio show for, it was pretty close to 10 years. If it wasn't 10, it was 9 and some change. And originally when that opportunity kind of came up, it came up due to some of our marketing with the radio station. Still a great relationship with them to this day. I value the time and experience that I had the opportunity doing an hour-long talk radio show. And that's a little bit what this podcast platform has kind of come from, and then, you know, a continuation of those radio shows. And, you know, KSGF in Springfield was wonderful, and I won't say that maybe someday that door will open again, but as things changed and different things, you know, throughout the industry, life, you know, our ability to purchase A1 Custom at Seaburg, I just felt like it was time to kind of pivot a little bit, and so we did. We ended up pivoting to KY3. We do a fair amount of TV work at this point, and then obviously here on YouTube. My son definitely is pushing me to some other platforms, and we may end up opening those doors at some point down the road. But for now, this is pretty much where we're at, and I enjoy being here. I love YouTube. I feel like they do a pretty good job, and it makes it very easy for me to, you know, get the content out. I would love to get to the point where I have maybe an editor or a videographer if and when we grow that big. As all of you probably know, it's pretty much as raw and live as I can film it. I typically don't film things more than once. If it's something I don't like, I don't film it again and we move on. But 99.9% of the time what I'm sharing with you guys is just straightforward and, you know, off the cuff as I can be. And I really feel like that's been a really nice thing for YouTube itself. You know, there's some amazing channels and amazing editors out there. And again, I could really polish our pencil, and I think we will at some point. However, I like just sharing what it is and how it is when it, you know, happens. And getting to 3,000 or a little over 3,000 subscribers at this point, I love the fact that we get to interact and you know, not only do I share, you know, what's going on in some of the projects in my personal life, now that I'm kind of getting a little bit settled in with owning the company, a big part of where I want to take this channel is to be able to film while I'm at work. You know, most of everything that I put out there is after hours or weekends, except like today, where we're headed down to my Fayetteville store with a mini excavator. Now, you've seen this mini excavator in the probably some shorts more than anything. I think maybe I did one long form video on it. And what I'm trying to do is get and make the guys' lives a little bit easier with equipment. Most of our stores have anywhere from 3 to probably 9 personnel in there. And sometimes pushing disabled vehicles in and out is a very, very physically difficult thing. I don't know, I'm sure most of you out there have tried to push dead weight before. And it doesn't work out all that well. Now, during the last probably 7-8 years, they make a power pusher, I think is the brand I was looking at. But it's a battery-powered pushing device for moving disabled cars around. And I tried to order them, and they just have been on back order or not been able to get the parts, or I don't know if they went out of business, I don't know what. But it was kind of a blessing in disguise, and sometimes life is like that, that it didn't work out, because they were like $5,500, and then you got to buy the batteries to go along with them, and batteries obviously have a shelf life. So it was, you know, it was a necessary tool, but this I think is going to do a better job than that anyway. So this is a SDL or SD Lanch 50 mini skid. It has tracks on it. I don't think you can see that in the video. And then it has a mini skid kind of dingo attachment to remove the bucket and put other implements. You can also see that it's got, you know, hydraulic remotes on it for running an auger. Now, we're not going to use any of that. That's not anything that's going to help us. But what we will use is probably the bucket, and then I have, or I will acquire, some additional pallet forks so the guys can lift engines and transmissions out of the back of trucks as they get delivered. Some of them have lift gates on their trucks, and that makes it very easy for us to deal with. But occasionally they don't, and that makes it very difficult for us to deal with. So this little Chinese mini skid here, it's not really going to be worked hard. It's got a single cylinder, I think it's a 420cc Rado engine in it. Is it as good as some of the big brand skid steers out there? Absolutely not. For the money, is it a very useful tool? I've had it, I'd have to look back at the videos of when I bought it, maybe a month or two now. And I've used it some around our place. It's done everything I wanted it to do, and it's really done it fairly well. It does not have pilot controls. It works more like a zero-turn lawnmower, but it ain't bad. So we're going to deploy it down there to the shops. We're going to weld a D-ring right on the center of that bucket. I've got a strap and then another clevis, so I can safely be able to tow vehicles in and out with it. So pretty excited to be bringing that down there to the guys today. I know they're going to be happy and thankful to have it. But it's just stuff kind of like this that I get myself into that I really love sharing with you guys, my thoughts. Now, I've been an auction guy for a long time. Purple Wave Auction is, you know, you've seen many videos where I'm picking things up on Purple Wave. Thankfully, there was a YouTube channel, and he's not terribly far from me. I think he's maybe around the Oklahoma City area. Our Life in Trees started doing some videos about EquipBid, which is an online auction company that sells a lot of imported pieces of equipment. And it's not that I don't want to buy domestic. I buy domestic anytime I can, and I hope we get to the point where that's more feasible. Just sheerly that there's a option for domestic instead of, you know, having to buy an imported item. But buying an imported item that serves the purpose, well, I got a job to do and I need to get it done, and this is what kind of fulfilled that role. But anyway, that Our Life in Trees did some really good videos about how the equipment website works, how pickup works, the auctions itself that I'm somewhat close to, and picking up from them. And so I got on there, and Miami, Oklahoma, Mother Road Auctions is where this one came from. We have been out to Osawatomie, Kansas, I believe. I probably butchered how to say that. I can't think of the name of that particular auction. And then I have not been to the one in Edmonds, Oklahoma that's Red Stag Auctions, but I look at it quite a bit. I am right about 100 miles from Miami, Oklahoma, and I prefer that auction just sheerly for logistics-wise. And so we were able to pick up this mini skid for right about $2,000. And for $2,000, it is a new unit. We did the video on kind of what everybody said, and even the auction company told me to do as far as changing all the fluids. And so I'm super excited to be able to bring this down for the guys and them to have, you know, a little bit more horsepower, if you will, or a tool to make their life a whole lot easier. And as well as I have had enough comments in the comment section that it's stuff you guys are interested in it as well. And I talked about this a while back, and I haven't really got it up and going yet in a formal sense. But it was recommended to do a Ask Your Mechanic series, if you will. And a lot of times that's where these videos come from. Or I try, and at least once to twice a week, I sit down and I try and respond to all of the comments that came in that week to the best of my ability. Not saying one or two doesn't slip through there, but most of the time going through the comments is what gives me the material or topics to talk about, is what you guys want to hear. I do this all day long. I live, sleep, eat, and breathe automotive repair, and that's my choice. I do love it. I truly do love it. But I also want to be talking about things that you guys want to hear about or are interested in. Pardon me. And so the Ask Your Mechanic series, we'll start a series on that, or we kind of have somewhat been doing it informally now. But it'll be things that you guys want to talk about, you guys want to hear about it. If it's equipment auctions, sometimes if it's equipment repair that we're doing. Now, A1 Custom is not an equipment repair company. However, I don't mind doing equipment repair. I had worked for a company for a while, and a lot of the tooling or fundamentals transfer from automotive repair, with the exception if the equipment is too big. I don't really have, you know, the infrastructure to deal with some of that, so I have to get creative, or I just can't do it. But I have a hard time saying can't, because, you know, typically when I do something I've never done before, I learn quite a bit, as well as it helps out a lot of folks. And so we do some equipment service, some equipment repair. It's mainly for customers that I have a very strong relationship with, that, you know, they want to be able to call one person or one company and take care of, you know, kind of the gambit. They don't want to have to find multiple people to service kind of that mechanical area. I didn't do a video on it, but we did do a service call. I'd say it's been I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, and we worked on kind of an old, I would call it an antique, some antique farm equipment. It was something that was still used for harvest. It had a huge Deutz air-cooled diesel in it, but it wouldn't crank up. Now, have I ever worked on a combine before? No. But I understand DC current or direct current, and we were able to load check all of the circuits and figure out where we had basically a bad connection and get that thing fired up so they could harvest their corn. So, not really a big deal you know, but I was definitely kind of on the job training there and applying, you know, what I know about automotive electricity to fix that or diagnose and fix it. And so if you're the right person and you know me and I can do it feasibly, I'll kind of bend my rules and get out of my comfort zone a little bit. You've seen us do quite a bit of skid steer repair here on the channel, just kind of rebuilding, you know, some skid steers. I wanted a skid steer, how long ago has that been? Probably about 6-8 years ago. And as you guys know, that kind of equipment is very expensive. So I didn't have much of a budget. And I ended up on Purple Wave Auction. And this was pre-recording for YouTube. And I found a case, I think it was a 1530, really an old Uniloader. It was a gas engine with a Renault 4-cylinder in it. It had been at a vocational school up in Kansas City, and they, I think, did a very nice paint job in the paint department as a little bit of a project for the class. And then it just sat there until the fuel went bad, wouldn't start, and it had some final drive issues with the chain in the side of the, you know, driving one of the skid sides of things. So I bought it, I think, $3,200. I got it in, I fixed it. We didn't put a whole lot of money in it, put a battery in it. I had to do a couple master links in one of the drive sprocket chains. What else did I do? I changed the oil. I don't think I even changed the hydraulic fluid on it, and we just used it. I probably had that a couple years. I did some driveway work with it. I think there's some early videos on the channel of some of the driveways we've done. And then I was able to sell it for pretty much double the money. And that led or gave me a little bit of money to go towards my next skid steer, which is the Gale. And so I think we gave $12,500 for the Gale. Now I've got probably another $8,000 in it, new tires, had to do one of the drive motors. There's plenty of videos on the channel about it. And it's a good operating unit at this point. It has some leaks, you know, we call it spot, or if the leaks get real bad, we'll call it puddle. But I've got some more leaks that I need to get taken care of on it, but for the majority of them, it's pretty dry, honestly. What we do with that wheeled unit, I haven't quite decided yet. I still have been using it, but I would probably like to take my money back out of that and put into a different alternate piece of equipment, because as most of you know, we bit the bullet after many years of procrastinating and waiting for the timing to be right, and we went ahead and got a 75-3 Kubota track skid steer, which is what I've wanted for years. Now, why does all that matter to anybody out there? Well, I don't know about you guys, but time is pretty much, and I've heard this for years, and I didn't understand it because all I had back then was time, and I didn't have any money. That's probably one of my biggest insecurity, may be the right word. I don't really like it, but it's probably the right word. Insecurity about, you know, making sure that I've got what I need for me and my kids and my family. And so that's why I work pretty much all the time, even if I've got a few nickels to rub together. And so I went from having all the time and no money to having no money still, but some money. I couldn't buy stuff like this if I didn't have a few bucks. So I like to buy things that I can eventually have that piece of equipment pay me to own it. And basically what I'm doing is buying my time back, hopefully, or that's the goal. Where instead of me putting in 40 hours and making you know, X amount of dollars, if the equipment can do a lot of the work and generate some of its own revenue outside of the amount of time that I put in it, that's where my mind is at most of the time. And so I don't buy a lot of frivolous things. I do buy a lot of things, but typically they're things that I can figure out a way that they can generate some revenue. For instance, you know, people talk about vehicles being a depreciating asset, and they are. However, I keep my vehicles long enough and we take real good care of them, and I don't mean to bore you with maintenance and repairs, but at some point that nobody ever talks about is when you own a vehicle long enough, it starts to appreciate. And so, you know, we have pretty much all of my vehicles, with the exception of one, have over 300,000 miles on them. I believe my wife's is right at 240. This one here we're driving today is 385, 372 right now. Well, to somebody else, this is, I don't know, probably a $3,500 truck maybe. But to me, this thing works for me every day and creates its own revenue. Not every day. When I need it, it works and it creates its own revenue. We're able to haul. We use a lot of, we haul a lot of scrap with this truck. That doesn't bring in a ton of money, but it does recycle some of our waste, and it brings in maybe enough money to cover this tank of gas today. My 1 ton, I do a lot of towing and hauling. It pretty much only goes places when it's creating or picking up or delivering away for me to get some revenue. The skid steer itself, the amount of work that I can do with that versus even some of the older units are not having one at all, buys my time back, and then typically that time is associated with a certain amount of revenue. Whether I'm putting in a driveway, whether I'm using it to lift cabs off of vehicles out in the pasture, whether I'm pulling engines with it, setting engines out of the back of trucks, loading them up, etc. All of this amplifies my ability to get work done. And if I had any way to sum up this YouTube channel, it's really kind of a little bit of a demonstration of that. And I have people tell me all the time, why are you doing that? Why are you working so hard? How do you have any time? Do you sleep? Yeah, I mean, I get some sleep. But I love sharing with you guys out there on the channel that you got to strike while the iron's hot. It is early to mid-February 2026. We've had kind of a crazy, they call it a false spring, or that's what I've been hearing it called. I think today it's going to be like 70 degrees. I think it's the 16th, so we're mid-February right now. Dude, I got things to do, and we're getting it done. And that's what I post here on the channel about. Hopefully it inspires some folks out there maybe to get some things done. I know when I watch certain channels, it really kind of motivates me to go out and get some things done. Some of the channels I really enjoy, there's a guy called Dig Drive DIY. I think Neil is his name. I don't know him from anybody. I really enjoy his channels. I think he lives somewhere in Indiana. Diesel Creek is one that I look forward to every week. His name's Matt. He's, I think, in Pennsylvania. He does a lot of cool stuff that I really would like to get into. He's more into some of the bigger, heavy iron, old iron, saving a lot of it from the scrapyard. Really does a great job with his videos, editing, and built an amazing platform. I subscribed to him when he was working out of a little bitty garage. He had a single axle international dump truck. Can't remember the series of his Bobcat. And he was working just out of literally a hole in the wall. And now old boy's got it going on, and he has an amazing shop out there. I don't know what that was, but old boy was walking with an American flag and saluting all the drivers. So I salute you, brother. Hopefully all's well in your life. But anyway, that's one I really like, the Boss Garage. They're Canadians. They do some cool stuff. And I just thought, well, I'm doing a lot of different stuff than they are per se, but I enjoy getting to see what they've got going on. And so that's kind of what this kind of started as, and I share it with you guys. I don't know if it's the automotive content that, seems to do better. We're a little all over the place, but it's real world about what I got going on and some of the things I get myself into. And I really, we've been doing it long enough now that there's times I go back and revisit some of the videos, and I don't say it's not that I forgot, but some of them start to blend together. When you work on as much equipment and as much vehicles and customers and family and friends as I have over the last 25 years, sometimes it's just a little bit of a blur and I don't quite always remember what was happening. However, some of the videos, I've even been able to gone back and watch it myself and kind of remember, and it helps jog that thought process of what I was doing when I shot that video, as well as some of my techs have found it, and there's things that they have been able to glean from some of the, I don't want to say experimental repairs, but I do things in my home shop or my home laboratory, as I like to call it, that I don't necessarily, I've not done at work before. Now, we attend and go to a tremendous amount of training. I have for well over 2 decades now. And I don't want to be, quote unquote, practicing on customer cars. And so that's partially how some of the stuff comes to the shop there, or my lab at home, is I take on projects, or I buy projects that I want to get in the middle of before it's somebody else's vehicle. So right now in the lineup, there's probably well north of 20, if not 30 vehicles sitting there ready to be, repaired and put back on the road, or disassembled and, good known parts applied to other vehicles to get them back on the road. And I do as much of that as I have time for. So then when it comes to somebody showing up at the shop, most of the time I have already done those repairs, and I can either get in the middle and do them, obviously, for the customer, or I can talk or coach any of my technicians through those repairs. And they do that for me too, by the way. If I am at another shop, as you see me today running down to Arkansas, there's times I've brought technicians from one market to the other to help or assist with a repair that we've not personally done. Or there's times that I call them and say, hey, I know you had this in here, tell me about XYZ. And the network that A1 Custom and Seaburg Service Center have internally is something that is really invaluable to me. And the YouTube is kind of an extension of that. I'm super thankful to have all of the amazing technicians, service advisors, and managers that have been with us for many years, sometimes many decades at this point. There's a lot of shops out there that struggle to find help. The owner is running around, nothing can be done without him or her. And thankfully, for years and years of our work and investment, there's tons and tons of work that get done that I never even know that it ever happened at the shop. There's times my mom will text me and say, hey, I went into the guys at Republic, they got X, Y, and Z done. Thank you so much. They were awesome. Well, I didn't call them and tell them, hey, that's my mom, you better take care of her, or this is a VIP. They took care of her just like they take care of everybody else. We do our best, regardless of what people think. We don't want you coming back for the same repair or the same symptom or problem. We take that super seriously. Does it happen? Sometimes, unfortunately, it does. But we're going to hit it head on, just like we always do, and try and get that situation alleviated and take care of it, because we don't want you back more than you want to come back and see us. And God forbid you do come back, we want it to be something else that we can rectify a situation and get your vehicle performing like it was supposed to. So I guess as we come up on 30 minutes, let's just do a little recap. That's, I guess, a little bit of my mindset when I do these videos. Just dropped in here to Gateway, Arkansas, out of Seligman. But I enjoy getting to share what's going on and some of the weird, crazy things I get myself into. I really enjoy hearing from you guys in the comments section. The last year and 8 or 9 months to 2 years, we've, are real close. Honestly, by the time this airs, we may be at 3,200 subscribers. I don't know where this thing, YouTube's going to go. We'll see whether we branch out to some other platforms. We do have some big things coming up in the company. Some kind of, I don't want to say big changes, but they are big changes. I'll share those with you as we go along. And then, where the industry's going, I guess. I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy having a personal vehicle that I can get from point A to point B whenever I want. I know there's a lot of folks out there across the globe that, that's not, not everybody has a vehicle or 30 like I've got, but I'll keep sharing that with you. You guys keep sharing things in the comments. The fact we're at this point with YouTube really motivates me to kind of double down and hopefully up my game a little bit, whether it's camera equipment. I feel comfortable enough just talking on camera and showing and sharing you guys. I think the next stage will be a little bit of editing, maybe to clean up some of the videos. And then hopefully at some point, maybe a videographer and an editor that can really help push the content out a little bit quicker. I try and push out pretty quick, but maybe a little bit more polished. So if you've got some things down in the comments, if you've got some things that you want to talk about or videos you want to see, let me know down in the comments. And then if you stuck with me and you're a subscriber, sincerely, thank you very much. We'll catch you on the next video.